On our newscast tonight, an open letter addressed to South Korea from the North Korea's National Defense Commission. It reads Pyongyang has already halted all acts of slandering South Korea and that their offers of peace on the condition that Seoul call off joint military drills and stop cross-border slandering are sincere. Seoul's Unification Ministry says Pyongyang needs to do much more than write a letter to validate themselves based on their track record. And Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe continues doing what he does best, raising tensions in Northeast Asia by disregarding historic facts and celebrating war criminals. And now, the U.S. is reportedly considering asking Japan to make a new apology about World War II. When it comes to massive data leaks, Korea is not alone. More than 2,000 fraud cases have been tracked from U.S. credit card breaches. The FBI fears this may be just a small part of a bigger and more sophisticated scam and urges companies to prepare for more cyber attacks. These and more coming up, so stay tuned.
It is 4 a.m. in Washington, 11 a.m. in Tripoli, and 6 on a Friday evening here in Seoul. I'm Kim Hyun-ji.
Well, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Daniel Che. An open letter from North to South Korea, that's our starting point today.
That's right. The content of the letter, Pyongyang's sincerity and determination on mending inter-Korean ties. North
Korea's latest move comes a matter of weeks before the start of joint military drills between Seoul and Washington. Our Hwang Sung-hee starts us off.
North Korea says South Korea should not thoughtlessly doubt and rashly reject the sincere, important proposal it made last week to improve inter-Korean relations. Last week, Pyongyang offered to halt all cross-border slandering and asked Seoul to call off its annual joint military drills with Washington that take place between February and March. The offer was turned down flat by the South, which called it a disguised peace offensive. In an open letter addressed to South Korea on Friday, the North's powerful National Defense Commission said it had already halted all acts of slandering South Korea. North Korea has yet to react to comments made by President Park Geun-hye regarding the North during her trip to India and Switzerland, and the state-run Nodong Sinmun newspaper has not published columns criticizing the South this week. It went on to say the North did not urge Seoul to stop ordinary military drills, but to halt drills for a war staged in collusion with outside forces. It said North Korea will first implement practical measures to end all hostile military acts that could aggravate the South. The letter claimed Pyongyang's nuclear program is purely defensive in nature and reiterated that its will for denuclearization should not be doubted. It stressed Pyongyang is determined to create an atmosphere of reconciliation, completely halt hostile military acts, realize the reunion of separated families, and to resume tours to Mount Kumgangsan in the north. Experts say this letter could be an attempt by the North to pressure the South Korean government into accepting its proposal by stressing its legitimacy. In an apparent extension of its attempt, Shin Sun-ho, the North Korean ambassador to the United Nations, is scheduled to hold a press conference in Geneva on Friday morning local time. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea's Unification Ministry said that North Korea needs to show its sincerity through actions, not words. In its official response to the open letter North Korea sent to the South earlier this Friday, Seoul said although it appreciates the North's proposal to end all cross-border slander, it is very hard to believe the North is sincere, considering its previous acts, including its third nuclear test and unilateral decision to shut down the joint Kaesong industrial complex. The ministry said trust is not something that can be built with words and that the North should show its sincerity with actions, such as a real effort to denuclearize. The ministry said that without that, the North is not making a reasonable request in asking the South to stop its annual military drills with the U.S. The ministry also urged the North to accept its previous proposal to hold talks on reunions for separated families during the Korean War. Seoul's defense ministry also reiterated its importance of trust between relations between the two Koreas.
Keeping our eyes fixated on the Korean peninsula, officials from the two Koreas are meeting on this Friday to discuss ways to ease restrictions on communications and transit at the inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex. The talks are focused on improving an electronic identification system that will make it easier for South Korean businessmen going in and out of Kaesong. The officials are also in the early stages of discussing the adoption of internet connectivity at the complex. This meeting is the fourth round of talks between the two Koreas on communication systems at Kaesong. Now, South Korea set its defense budget earlier this year, and it includes a roughly 4% increase in spending to guard against potential provocations from, of course, Pyongyang. But just how do the defense capabilities of the two Koreas match up?
For more details on that and on this year's defense budget, we have our Kim Hyun-bin standing by in the news center.
Hey there, Hyun-bin.
Hey guys, let's start with some numbers. South Korea's defense budget for 2014 stands at a little over $33.5 billion US, accounting for 10% of South Korea's total budget. Seoul's defense spending outstrips most other countries, even Israel. But before taking an in-depth look at that, let's take a closer look at the reasons why South Korea has its defense budget set this high. This chart shows the defense capabilities of both North and South Korea. According to South Korea's 2012 Defense White Paper, North Korea has twice as many troops than South Korea. The North also has a distinct advantage when it comes to the number of reserve forces. Pyongyang has thousands of conventional weapons, double the number of combat aircrafts, and more than triple the number of Navy combatants. Even though the North has strength in numbers, most of the regime's equipment is old and worn out, while Seoul has much more high-tech weaponry. Since Seoul is not able to compete in terms of quantity, South Korea is focused on maintaining and upgrading its defense capabilities. Looking at the larger picture, the total budget for South Korea is split into two sectors. The major part is for maintaining a force of around 640,000 active cadets, reserves, and a huge chunk of that is used for operating military equipment and weaponry. That accounts for roughly 2/3 of the budget. The rest is used in the research and development of weaponry and other projects such as the kill chain and Korea Air and Defense System, which will be used to counter nuclear and missile attacks from the North.
All right, thank you for your report, Hyun-bin. That was our Kim Hyun-bin reporting live on Korea's defense budget.
Well, staying on the subject, joining us now for more on the defense budget is Dr. Kim Cheol-woo, a senior research fellow at the Korea Institute for Defense Analysis Center for Security and Strategy. Welcome to the program, Dr. Kim.
Good to be here.
Well, getting deeper into Korea's defense, where are we in terms of the comparison of the defense budgets between the two Koreas?
You know, some analysts argue that the North Korea only spending roughly 1 trillion won, which is almost like 1 billion won only. But the South Korea is spending more than $33 billion in US dollars. So that's not correct. And despite the struggling economy, North Korea is pouring more than at least 1/3 of their national total income to the defense expenditure, which means they did not disclose the exact numbers of their military spending. So, but at least their purchasing power is relatively high, and I would argue that my institution estimated that their actual spending is more than $6 to $8 billion. This is a tremendous amount of money. So, because of that, North Korea has tried to use the asymmetrical tactic toward Seoul and Washington's combined defense posture. So, particularly North Korea is having at current situation more than 1,000 diverse missiles like Nodong, Daepadong 1, 2, and a special operation forces. Lots of asymmetrical tactics they are employing. That's the tricky part. That's why South Korea with the enhanced at least 4% of defense budget, we cannot meet all the threats from North Korea. So that's why we are picking on the focal points of the direct threats.
Of course, we are, of course, interested in finding out what we don't know for sure, North Korea's defense budget, and where is it mostly distributed to. Could you perhaps also tell us a little bit about their key weapon system?
Their key weapon system is like obviously missile, more than 1,000 diverse versions of missiles. On top of that, there are more than 100,000 special operations forces, and obviously nuclear weapons. Nobody knows at this situation that actually is miniaturized or deployable to the intercontinental ballistic missile is arguably not tested. But at least they did a third nuclear test, and then military stance is supposed to be the worst case scenario. So at least their chemical and biological weapons is tremendous threat also. Overall, it's not a matter of the 1.2 million standing army. On top of that, there are very irregular, warfare tactics. This is very scary things toward even the South Korea. Look at the Seoul is very within the direct artillery fire from the north. So overall, North Korea's weapon system, although it's outdated and old, but in numbers, they are tremendous still. So I think that we cannot, despise or evaluate their capability. So at this point, Korea's stance toward those kind of threats is very sophisticated also, particularly Korea's air and missile defense system is very updated, so-called kill chain strategy, and preemptively detect and intercept those threats. I think that's a very reasonable approach by the South.
All right, so is South Korea better prepared for future North Korean attacks like the one we had in 2010 on the South Korean border island of Yeonpyeong-do?
Yes, lessons learned. We've done an after-action review. We figured it out what's the problem. Actually, the Marine Corps' direct response reverted toward the origin of the attack was quite successful. But we upgraded the weapon system on top of all the watching of the actual movement of North Korea. So we enhanced the search and reconnaissance capability, and on top of the intelligence analysis tactic, we were well prepared. So South Koreans and the international community we don't have to worry about our military readiness against the possible North Korean provocations.
Well, I also would like to, you to shed some light on something that's usually debated among military servicemen here in Korea in the South. We heard that the service term is a lot longer in North Korea, so they might not be as efficient and battle-ready as the South Korean servicemen, right? That's what I heard. And in terms of treatment or in terms of quality of life for the military servicemen, it's comparably lower than South Korea, right?
It depends on the special units of the North Korea, but the regular standing army is relatively small and malnourished, and all the defectors from North Korea arguably testified they are not ready to attack South Korea. But at the last minute, they can have even special treatment like toward the South Korean attacks. So I think the regular army is not that strong, but the special forces and the elites are well educated and well prepared, particularly nighttime operations. Look at the AN2 demonstration during a couple of days ago. This is very specifically, they try to be like a smart sly fox tactics toward the South Korea, not the 1950 Korean War style full-scale general war.
Well, very interesting insight into the North Korean military system. Well, thank you, Dr. Kim, for coming in. We will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now shifting gears to the economy, Korean import prices rose by 2 points.
Democratic Party leader Kim Han-gil and independent lawmaker An Chol-soo found common ground on two main issues related to elections at a luncheon meeting in Seoul earlier this Friday. Our Kim Young-gil has this story.
Opposition lawmakers Kim Han-gil and An Chol-soo sat down for discussions this Friday on election issues that made headlines last year. The meeting focused on two main topics: the system by which political parties field their own candidates for elections, and the allegations that the nation's spy agency and the military interfered in the 2012 presidential election. The two leaders agreed that the candidate nomination system should be abolished, as it acts as a breeding ground for money for nomination scandals. Abolition of the system was a campaign pledge of President Park Geun-hye, but she has not commented on the issue since she was elected. Her Seoul party, however, wants to keep the system, and spokesperson took aim at the rival party in a press conference after the meeting on Friday.
The Seoul party are trying to scrap the pledge to abolish the candidate nomination system in local elections. The public is watching.
The two opposition party leaders also called for a separate prosecutorial investigation into allegations that the nation's spy agency and the military interfered in the 2012 presidential election.
Kim Han-gil and An Chol-soo agreed to cooperate in appointing an independent prosecutor for the spy agency scandal and to abolish the candidate nomination system for local elections.
The two opposition leaders did not, however, talk about whether they would join forces to run in local elections slated for June 4th. But they did say they will hold a rally together to advocate for the abolition of the candidate nomination system soon. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye is expected to issue thousands of special pardons ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday next week. The Justice Ministry says the pardons will be issued to roughly 6,000 people whose livelihoods have been affected by their convictions. The list of beneficiaries is expected to include first-time offenders and small business owners charged with minor crimes, as well as people who have had driver's licenses suspended or revoked. The pardons will be discussed during a cabinet meeting next Tuesday and are expected to be issued right before Lunar New Year holiday, which begins on Thursday.
Moving on to the tech realm, electronics giant Samsung Electronics has turned in a disappointing fourth quarter result. Overshadowed by the popularity of Apple's iPhone, the Korean company posted an 18% drop in operating profits. Our Shin Se-min has the details.
The world's biggest smartphone maker on Friday posted disappointing fourth quarter results, although its operating profit for all of 2013 reached an all-time high of 36 trillion won, or over $33 billion. Posting the first decline in its quarterly performance, Samsung said its profit for the October to December period fell 18% to $7.7 billion from the previous quarter. And this was also down 6% from a year earlier. The company said its profits were hit by the strength of the won. But the disappointing result was mainly due to its worse-than-expected earnings from its main smartphone business, which accounts for 2/3 of the company's entire operating profit. Yet the Korean brand maintained a market share of 30% in both developing and developed countries, reaffirming it as a top global brand. A Samsung Electronics official said the company is aiming to sell some 4 billion smartphones this year, an increase of 10% from last year, by expanding its smartphone line with new models and lower prices, and also by responding to growing LTE demands in Europe and China. The company's overall 2013 sales hit a record of $211 billion, up 14% from a year earlier. Its profits from its semiconductor and household appliance units both showed increases. Analysts say the coming year will depend largely on its performances in business for high-end smartphones and premium TVs, particularly in state-of-the-art ultra-high definition and curved panel televisions. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And Kia Motors Corporation and its largest shareholder, Hyundai Motor Company, recorded weaker combined profits last year compared to the previous year, as exports were hampered by a stronger local currency. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Korea's second-largest carmaker, Kia Motors Corporation, attributed the drop in its operating profits last year to an unfavorable exchange rate as the Korean won strengthened against a weakening Japanese yen. Kia posted operating profits of around 3.2 trillion Korean won, or roughly $2.9 billion in 2013, a 9.8% drop from the previous year. The Korean won gained an average of 25.7% against the Japanese yen last year, curbing Kia's competitiveness against Japanese automakers. The drop in Kia's yearly operating profit for 2013 was proportionally larger than what Hyundai experienced. Hyundai saw its profits fall 1.5% to $7.7 billion. A Kia official said the company is relatively more vulnerable to exchange rate fluctuations than Hyundai, as it's more dependent on exports. More than 40% of Kia's sales rely on exports, while the figure for Hyundai was roughly 25%. Deliveries of Kia's pricier models at home, including the Sportage SUV and the Seoul wagon, helped Kia offset losses from sales in the U.S., which fell 4% compared with a year earlier. Hyundai and Kia had apologized in 2012 for misstating the fuel economy of its vehicles and issued debit cards to U.S. buyers as reimbursement for higher-than-expected fuel costs. The company's combined deliveries are expected to increase 4% to 7.9 million units in 2014, according to Hyundai Group Chairman Chung Mong-gu earlier this month. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Korea's financial authorities have pledged to step up their crackdown on credit card verification companies and brokers to prevent further distribution of personal information stolen from banks following the worst data leak in Korea's history. They also said they would issue harsh punishments to credit card companies that take advantage of the recent breach to attract new customers. The regulators also say anyone found to have leaked personal data in the future could be sentenced to up to 5 years in prison and fined 50 million won or $46,000. The authorities also plan to launch a center with the help of related government offices, whose mission will be to prevent the stolen data from falling into the wrong hands. Over in the U.S., more than 2,000 credit cards were fraudulently used to make purchases at Neiman Marcus and a sister store. And authorities warn that there could be more leaks on the way. Our Connie Kim has the details.
Korea isn't the only place where massive amounts of data have been leaked. U.S. credit card companies Visa, MasterCard, and Discover have confirmed that 2,400 credit cards were used fraudulently at Neiman Marcus and Last Call stores. The announcement follows the news that the information of more than 1 million credit and debit cards used at Neiman Marcus stores was leaked from July to October without the store's knowledge. Clues of the security breach were detected during the holiday shopping season. Neiman Marcus has explained that the theft was possible because of malicious software installed on its system in January. The company says it'll offer customers who shopped in its stores in 2013 free credit monitoring and identity theft protection for a year. The Neiman Marcus case is similar to another one involving U.S. retailer Target, where malware installed on card readers at stores nationwide captured the information of up to 110 million customers during the holiday shopping season. It has not been confirmed whether the malware installed on the Neiman Marcus system is the same used at Target. The FBI has since warned U.S. retailers that the security breaches that affected Target and Neiman Marcus may be just a small part of a bigger and more sophisticated scam, and urged them to prepare for more cyber attacks. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
It is time to go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center for an update. Bo-kyung, we got a rather spring-like weather here in the capital, but I understand rain is on its way?
TGIF, Yeonji, and Daniel, and that's right. Nationwide showers are forecast for Saturday, but the total precipitation will only be about 5 millimeters, so it won't be much.
Okay, any chances of seeing a white weekend?
Well, Daniel, due to the moderate temperatures, only those in Gangwon-do province will get to see snow. In fact, a pre-heavy snowfall watch has been issued there for tomorrow afternoon, and at most 8 centimeters of snow will pile up on the mountains of Gangwon. Other than that, fine dust may come back in the central regions later tonight, so please continue to tune in for future weather updates. Taking a closer look at tomorrow's readings, Seoul starts off the day at 5 degrees with a high of 7. Meanwhile, spring-like weather is forecast for Busan with a high of 15. Moving on to other regions, Daejeon makes it to 9 degrees while Dokdo and Mount Kumgang peak at 11 and 1 degrees respectively. Well, hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday night, and I'll be back with more updates after 8.
Thank you for that, Pyongyang. And that's all from us for this week. Thank you for watching. This has been Daniel Che.
And I'm Kim Hyun-ji. More news updates coming up at 8 p.m. Korea time. Have a great weekend.